Hello guys, welcome to yet another session here at the Gosu Academy. And what we'll be doing today mainly is talking about this coach cheat sheet that I've made. What it is I've basically just written down some of the most important things I've learned as a coach. And then it's to help me remember. So let's say I would be moving to a different team at some point, or let's say for some other reason, even if I'm staying my team, maybe I lose track of what's important. This is like a document where there are a few notes that I can sort of help to remind myself of these things. Now, some of the things we've definitely talked about before, like the terrorists' diamond, we had an entire session on this. We also had the Counter-Strike ladder, where I don't think we did it super in depth, but we did it for a few different maps. And then, this one we haven't talked about, this one we haven't talked about, I think, and this one we haven't talked about. Some of it is not like something like this, for example, the bottom one. It's at the bottom for a reason. T-side utility can be split into the groups of players, so either map control utility or lurk utility. And basically, if I go ahead and join a server, and I'll make sure to switch it for you guys here as well. If I just go to, let's say, Inferno, we can even, maybe we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. That's actually not a bad idea. So when talking about this, with the like lurk utility and the map control utility, what is interesting is different players need to know different things. There is utility that every player needs to know. Like, I'm expecting, for example, that even my apps player will have a rough idea how to throw the entry flash on B, because it could be a case where, the apps player rotates over to B, and we are only 3 alive, whatever, and then the apps player is the one where it makes sense, like, to throw the B pop flash, right? I would throw it like this. There's also utility, which is like, let's say, this is probably utility that an apps player does need to know. I don't even actually know this a good lineup for the smoke myself, but being able to smoke off long and molotoving short in a good way. I know there is a lineup, like a set lineup, where the molotov lands on top of the roof, like that, and it burns, I believe, under the roof, as you can see, and it burns on top. Like, this is the kind of utility I would expect my, mid player to know. Whereas, give you another example, like being able to do the, I don't actually even know it in CS2, because it's so rare that Inferno gets played, but the apps lurk smoke, that was decently close. But like an apps lurk smoke that goes down and lands here on the truck and allows you to get out. I know also, there's a way to molotov from inside apps that lands in pit, which is like safe and stuff like that. And yeah, basically the one part, the least important part of the cheat sheet is just you can split up the utility in sort of map control and lurk utility, and then even if there will be some utility, like for example the pop flash on B, or maybe even like a CT smoke on B, it's something I would expect any player on my team to know. That's what we will call like the default utility, right? This is utility I'm expecting every player to be able to know. And then for the rest of the utility, you can kind of think about it differently and split it up into map control utility and lurk utility. Why is that smart? I think one of the reasons why it's smart is because it's, in my team, for example, we had a few cases where we've either had utility fail or we've had utility that has been forgotten. Then we made a document with the default utility and even the lineups for all the default pieces of utility. And now, if you fail a piece of utility, which is in the default utility, or if you forget a lineup, this is extremely bad, because this is what everyone is expected to know. But at the same time, if my apps player comes down and needs to do the mid nades, it's sort of more okay for them to be failing it or not knowing the lineups, because that is normally map control utility they won't be practicing a whole lot. And that's kind of the idea behind it. This way you can also kind of just, it helps you think about what smokes, like for example, if our apps player has a smoke, it's probably good for the apps player to know the lurk smoke so that the apps player can generate pressure here and doesn't have to feel like the apps player has to save the smoke to take mid, because it's not really part of the map control utility. I don't think it's at all the most important thing in the cheat sheet. I do actually think there's one thing I forgot to add, but I have it written down somewhere. It's a rule of thumb, I'll just tell you, basically. And for this, let's go to Dust 2. So imagine that this was written down in the coach cheat sheet, because it should have been, but I have forgotten to add it. So I think I've touched on this one time before in a session, but I will sort of reiterate what I said back then. If we are playing Dust 2 and we get a kill on the B bomb side, if I, as a lurker, now do like a lurk smoke out B, this obviously generates additional pressure on B, and it will force rotations. So if you do pressure in the area of like kill, it means you force rotations. So if you get a kill, I'll really sort of spell it out here. If you get a kill somewhere and you then afterwards generate further pressure, you're forcing rotations, right? If you get a kill on B, for example, and you then will be flashing out long at the same time, what do you think that's gonna do, guys? Any ideas?
Sorry, what you said?
Nothing.
What, sorry? Yeah,
Nothing.
It probably won't change the CT setup.
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of the answer I'm looking for, but I think you can say it in a more powerful way. You can understand it in a way so you can use it as a good thing. Any ideas? So basically, if you pressure in the area of the kill, you force rotations. And if you pressure not in the area of kill, you make CTs stay. So it's kind of what you said. You don't change the CT setup, but also, if there's a long player, now we get kill on B, maybe he starts rotating, and now if we flash over long, then this guy's gonna come back. That's essentially it. So if, let's say, we are majority of people on B and we just got a kill on B, it can be good for our long player, for example, to just flash over long one time before the long player leaves. That way, you're making the long player stay and you're making the rotations happen slower. So I guess you can say pressure in the area of the kill forces fast rotations, and pressure not in the area of kill forces slow rotations. That's probably the best way you can describe that. So that's really, really important when you are a lurk player, especially, or even if you're IGL as well. Make sure to understand this concept of, obviously when I say the area of kill, it needs to be sort of not necessarily immediately, but obviously if we kill on B and then we wait 45 seconds and then we do a bit of pressure on B, that won't necessarily cause a bunch of rotations. We're talking like in the first 5 to 10 seconds after getting this kill, basically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. Let me just close down WhatsApp, because I think the people on YouTube will be annoyed by that. Okay, so that's 2 things from the cheat sheet, and I will just read you one more. I will just switch to Mirage. We're gonna go on like a global tour here. We're gonna see every map basically. Next, we'll talk about the terrorists' diamond theory, and as said, we did an entire session on this. Basically, what the terrorists' diamond is it is like 2 seconds. My girlfriend is tapping away furiously on the keyboard. Is distracting me a little bit. But the terrorist's diamond is basically what I use to kind of explain it is, imagine a diamond shape. I'll just try to shoot one here on the wall, even though I'm not the best painter. Imagine like a diamond like this, where you have basically 4 different options. You have it's kind of like, actually, the diamond. This one is a little tricky to explain. There's obviously a full session on it if you would be interested, but the it's basically a way to sort of read the CT setup. So CTs have, in this theory, 4 different ways of playing. They have playing heavy mid with fast rotations. They have heavy mid with slow rotations, or like the way I described it was heavy mid static. That would be slow rotations, and heavy mid dynamic. But for the sake of, explaining this in a shorter way, they have heavy mid with fast rotations, heavy mid with slow rotations. Then there's heavy sides with fast rotations, and heavy sides with slow rotations. So basically, if you are playing against a team that is playing heavy mid with fast rotations, what the terrorists' diamond theory, at least in my head, I kind of made this theory, right? What is important to know is that a team who is heavy mid with fast rotations, they will be starting mid. That's kind of obvious, and so they will leave the sides vulnerable. That means if you do, actually, I'll make this again a question time. So let's say we're playing against a team or Mirage that is playing, a con player who's coming out con, a short player coming out short, a window player, and then 1 A player, 1 B player. In this case, what would be what effect do you think an A execute would have? The idea of them being heavy mid with fast rotations. It's not
The
an easy
connector
question.
player will leave.
Yeah.
And will join to A. The window player should rotate to CT.
Yeah.
And the short, depending of he is aggressive or not.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is that they will leave mid, right?
Yep.
And that's like, again, I'm making it super obvious, but it's just so that I don't want anyone to be in a situation where they, and I'm not talking about just you, it's also people on YouTube watching and stuff like that. I want to make sure that these things are really clear, because I think these are pretty advanced things, like especially this terrorist diamond thing. But it's really good to understand. If you play against CTs who always start by playing 3 mid in a facet or even a team game, whatever, but they always rotate fast. Do you have an idea for what could be a call that would be better than an A execute? And just to explain why an A execute against that style of CT is bad, probably, is because, as you say, as soon as you do any kind of pressure towards A, because they are having fast rotations, they are going to come here, they're going to blow open the smokes, they're going to flash over bench, they're going to run in, and they're going to fight. This is like the typical facet player, basically. Starting heavy mid, and as soon as there's sound anywhere, they completely disregard an area, and then they just run in and try to fight everyone. Does anyone have an idea for a call that would be better than an A execute in such a round?
I'm guessing a fake.
Yeah, exactly. There is the option of faking, because I think that's one right answer, and I think there's another right answer as well. Any ideas?
Personally, I would probably say a default.
just try and get some kills so they're constantly aware of the sites and constantly afraid of where you're gonna go.
Yeah,
Because they're spread out kind of thin, so they will always just rotate back and forth. You can get timings on them.
yeah,
Maybe you could also do have a mid lurk.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so I mean, we're coming up with many good answers here. I actually agree with them also. Like, faking would be a good option. A tactic with lurks, right? Also, it was mentioned like a default. What kind of default do you think would be good against this type of team?
Probably like some sort of A default. You don't want to fight them where they're strongest. So probably
Yeah.
like A or B, but A I think is probably easiest to get a kill if you have like a guy Palace on 2 rank maybe.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's also the answer I would give, like a side heavy default, right? So you do like probably you want to do some pressure mid to make them stay, right? Because you don't want them to rotate fast after clearing mid. So you need to do balancing, right? We talked about that in a recent session as well. Just quickly on balancing. Balancing is when you make a round look the same no matter what you do, basically. So that the opponents have a hard time figuring out what you're doing. So in rounds where we are going mid as T, we want to make sure that we make it look the same as rounds where we don't go mid as T. Otherwise, it's really easy to figure us out. There's still one specific idea I think hasn't been mentioned. So like we have faking, a tactic with lurks, side heavy defaults, and I think there's one still missing.
Did you just like maybe put pressure on one side and retake mid?
Yeah, I would consider that a fake, but it's still true. It's still the right answer. Yeah, it is probably actually easier than you guys think, but what I would say would be another option then is doing some kind of an A pop, right? Like if you know the CTs are starting heavy towards mid, but with fast rotations, you want to do some kind of tactic which beats the fast rotations. That's also an option, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of this strat. Hellraisers are probably... Well, I've definitely mentioned this before, but there's this OG Mirage strat, one of the oldest in the game, basically, where, you know, you do bench smoke, you do stair smoke, but the first T runs out right when the smokes get thrown. So he's, like, close, and then it's like, go, and then you smoke, and as the smokes are only just now flying, that's when the A player here, if he doesn't have AWP, is jumping, whatever, jumping. Now he sees the smokes, now he pulls his util, and now the first T is already, you know, running out here. And then you can even get a flash over stairs, whatever, you can peek, and anyone who's running back here might die, right? Or even if they don't, then you can run, imagine then the smokes land, like, you go close here. Let me actually do this real quick. Imagine the smokes land, right? And now they pop, you get a flash, and now you run down the CT guy, whatever. And now the people from mid, they don't have time to blow up the smokes and get back in to the round, basically. So there's the option of faking. There's the option of doing some kind of tactic with a lurk or maybe 2 lurks. You could potentially do 3 lurks, but I would say if you do a lurk with majority of the team, it's a fake. So that's why I'm saying lurks, but we probably want to keep it to 1 or 2. Otherwise, it's kind of the same. And then side heavy defaults where you're working the sides, and then also, you know, something, yeah, like a pop. It looks like it says A pop. I mean, it could just as well be if they're heavy sides that you pop on B, for example. That could just as well be. Great. So, I mean, you can already see how advanced this is because we talked only about the heavy mid with fast rotations. But great. So, let's talk about the heavy mid with slow rotations. Any ideas for what would be good against that?
I'm guessing something fast.
Yeah. I think even yeah, like when I say slow rotations, it's obviously not like the guys are gonna be in mid and then they are gonna walk, like hold shift as they are walking back here. It's not what I mean. I know that's probably not confusing to you. I just want to make sure that it's clear. But what it just means is that they are, I mean, the word I used in the original session is that they are static. So like even if you generate pressure on the sides, they wanna make sure that it's not a fake before they move. right? I think we've all played matches where it's really easy to fake, because any type of fake, the CT start running like headless chickens. And we've also all played matches where we try to do some kind of a fake and the CTs just don't budge at all, right? And this is the idea that, you know, they play heavy mid, but they don't actually rotate back to the sides until they know it's A, for example. We'll just use A as an example here. So I think you could definitely do a pop, but the problem with a pop in this case is that you won't benefit from them being slow on the rotations. Like, if they see 2 smokes and then also a lot of flashes and people running out, they are going to be sort of having just as fast rotations as anyone else, if that makes sense. And I think, like, against a team which is quite static, it's probably better to instead do something like an A execute. If you know that they are not going to go through the smokes and fight you, you can use the smokes to take space. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna write like A exec, for example. Anything else?
I guess maybe just standard default.
Yeah. I think you can definitely do a standard default. Also because typically the people who, you know, are static, I call it slow rotations here just for the simplicity, but they are probably not the most aggressive, right? So doing a standard default can definitely work. Do you think like faking against such a team will work?
I
No,
don't
it
think
won't
so.
work.
No, probably not, right? At
No.
least it will work less than against, you know, a team with fast rotations. What about a tactic with a lurker or lurks?
It can work, but usually it won't work.
Yeah, I like that actually, because it sounds like when I'm asking the question that I'm also saying it won't work, but I actually agree with you. You know, a tactic with lurks will always work potentially against a team that's heavy mid, because even if they are static and they're waiting until, you know, you do a full A take, whatever, or they know that it's A, it's likely that you can do a fake and then still have a lurker, and maybe the players in mid, they will then move towards A when they know it's A, and then they will give up mid. So like a lurker can still work, I think, on rounds like this. And I mean, yeah, I don't think I need to ask this, but yeah, I would say also side heavy defaults will also work against such a team. Like that might even be better than a standard default, because again, they are slow to react. If you do, let's say, mid pressure, they will be pretty static in their setup. And then the A player is playing alone. You can, like, if the A player is playing alone close, like Shadow, whatever, if you contact out ramp with 2, if this player is not getting much help from mid, you will always trade this out and end up in a really good position, basically. So that's definitely gonna work. Okay, for people who play heavy sides, see here that doesn't really make sense to call it heavy sides with fast rotation. So instead, let's call it heavy sides dynamic. And what I mean with dynamic is, imagine a team which is playing heavy sides, but is willing to do stuff when things happen. Like, it's a dynamic setup in the sense that it's not rigid, right? Like, it's not that they decide from spawn, one guy is gonna play Shadow, and one guy is gonna be jumping Ticket as bait, and then no matter what the T's do, they're gonna stay in this setup. There are teams who play like this. There are even pro teams who, you know, will make a lot of decisions from spawn. And those I would consider as a sort of static defensive team, right? So like, again, to help you guys understand what I'm talking about, if we would play through mid and we would be ready to split, for example, a dynamic team, if they have someone Shadow and they have someone Ticket, it's possible the Ticket player will come to default and they will start like pushing down ramp, because they are thinking they are taking heavy mid. Now we can catch the solo lurk, and if we kill the A player here or even if we trade 1 for 1, we can kind of assume the rest of the players are in mid, and then it helps us a lot because we only need to fight in one direction. Whereas a static team, even if you're doing stuff mid, will maybe just stay in positions and hope that it works. That's kind of the idea. So does anyone have any idea what's good against a team that is playing heavy sides dynamic? So say, yeah, no, actually just let me leave it at that.
Like, you know what I mean? I guess for Mars, it would just be constantly taking mid and deciding where to execute depending on your teammates' pick, since you always be man advantage on that side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what would you say is... let's say you're taking mid, what you said. And
Yeah.
what if they push on A, for example? Let's say they're pushing down slope. Let's do the scenario where they don't see your teammate. And now they have one guy who's maybe playing around here. And they have some guy who's playing down slope, whatever. What do you think would be the best way to play against this?
I mean, for all mid, I assume we'll just fully check the sites, or maybe take control of CT instead, and let them have the other side.
Yeah.
You could also maybe leave some more one lurk in connector and to regroup the rest of the team towards ramp and trade them out.
Yeah.
And then activate the connector lurk.
That's at least the answer I came up with back in the day. I will, so we don't spend all of our time just talking about the terrorist diamond, because we've obviously done that in the past. But basically, like heavy sides dynamic, the answer I had against this was, taking mid and splitting sides through like with majority from what do you say? From sides. Like against the team that is dynamic, if they push into palace or if they push into slope, whatever, this is pretty strong to defend against a con split. But it's not that great to be slope if 3 of the T's come late slope and, fight these 2 guys. Then it's not that great, right? And that's like kind of the same answer with the heavy side static. Like, well, it's the same but reverse, if that makes sense. Like, if you play against a team that always plays, well, not always plays shadow, but we, for example, this was the example I used back then. We lost an important match, my team, in the female league, like Impact, and it was kind of what ended our season, because it felt like our opponents knew we were bad at using mid to split. And so what they did was they just stacked the sides. They let us have mid because they knew we weren't really going to use this for much. And then they would be having some kind of setup where, maybe they played double shadow, or they would have someone hiding here or hiding here because they knew we kind of wouldn't be splitting through mid anyway. And then, when we would actually go to the side, then we would be fighting like 2 or 3 people on the A bomb side, kind of all looking towards us. It would be kind of like we played a normal round where we just went A, except we had fewer grenades and they were even more heavily stacked. And that's what, lost us that match. So they were like heavy sides static. And the answer to playing against a team who plays heavy side static is playing like taking mid and splitting through mid. That's at least my answer. And then playing against the team that's heavy sides dynamic, you want to take mid and split through the sides. So like what you said, for example, leaving 1 or 2 players connector, but having majority go together directly towards the side. And then when these people are getting timing, then the connector players kind of are in positions to disrupt the other CTs who try to help. Or if they play like super heavy on the sides, then you want your A-lurk, for example, to be going alone from this side, just to make sure that no one can be in these close spaces. And then as you're splitting, this A-lurk will be playing like to trade. So if an orb peeks ticket, you peek and try to kill. If someone is default, you run out, you try to kill. That's basically the idea of the terrorist diamond. And you can apply it on a lot of different maps as well. Like you can apply it basically to any map. Some of them it's more difficult to understand how it works. Like a map like Anubis, for example, has almost 2 mids. Like you have water and you have mid. And then the terrorist's diamond can be a little bit harder to apply. Or take a map like Nuke, where the outside area is kind of the mid of the map, even though it's on the side of the map. Stuff like that. It's kind of confusing. But it is possible to apply this. And I'm not saying that this is where, like, especially if you play against good opponents, right? If you beat them by taking mid and splitting through the sides, for example. If you know from the terrorist's diamond that that's the best call, then it's not like the opponents are going to just do the same thing over and over and over 10 rounds in a row. You can keep doing the same, right? It becomes always a cat and mouse game. But why I think the terrorist diamond is important is because if you don't understand this concept, now you will. And the reason why it was important for me to sort of put my thoughts to paper was because now I have something to rely on. I know that if I play a match of Mirage, or, well, if my team plays a match of Mirage and I'm sitting there and coaching them and we keep losing to people playing heavy sides, I know what the answer is, right? If they play heavy sides and they don't break the setup, so heavy side static, I know I need to take mid and split through the middle areas. So like short or con. And that's what I think is the beauty of that thing, the terrorist's diamond. So, okay guys, I will move on to the next point on the list, which is I'll show you here on the YouTube video, and I'll show you even here in the Academy as well. One moment. Just stream my screen properly. So the next thing is the multi-step default. What I've written is it's a set strat for map control, but it's not a set strat for ending. It allows the IGO to call a set strat for map control into a set strat for ending from spawn. Actually, my example is kind of shit. I should polish this, I realized from making this video, but I will explain what I mean with this, because it does sound pretty straightforward, and I guess in a way it is, but in a way it isn't. So trying to explain what I mean when I say like multi-step default is that if I, as the IGL, call, let's do mid default, right? Maybe we're gonna do, you know, top mid smoke, we're gonna do window smoke, and we're gonna do like whatever, Molotov underground or Molotov con or whatever. And this is obviously a default, right? We have decided how do we start the round, and the idea of a default is it allows you more ways to react, basically. There's also set strats, right? Where we talked about A execute already. Let's say you're doing A execute, you're doing smoke bench, you're doing smoke stairs, whatever. In this case, because I didn't line up properly, it became a deep jungle smoke. But if we do smokes like this, for example, and we have every flash planned, we know basically no matter what, even if we get blocked, we're gonna try to go for this strat. This is a set strat that has an ending, right? But a multi-step default, which I just choose to call it, maybe people have a different name, would be something like smoking window only, and then as you're going out mid, whatever, you get to boxes, and then I'm not even sure if I can land this smoke. I might fail it. It's the con smoke. Really getting too old. Okay, it landed. But maybe we do con smoke, and then we do whatever a short Molotov, and then we get a flash con, and we take con. Even though these things seem very similar, what I just did, it was more in a way, like it was more than just a con default. I can even explain it better on Inferno, because that's the perfect perfect map for this. It's kind of where I had my eye opener, so I can more easily explain it. But essentially, imagine a default is where you have agreed upon a few things, right? And a set strat is where you've agreed on an ending. Then these kind of like multi-step defaults, or like, let's call it a map control default, or maybe even a map control set strat. It would be something like, let me see if I know this. Someone knows this lineup, right? Is it here? No. There's a lineup for long smoke from here. Surely someone knows it. Is it the sun? You know what? It might just be. That looks pretty good. Okay, so imagine, instead of saying, let's play mid default, imagine we have what I call a multi-step default, right? Where we have already agreed upon, like instead of calling it a mid default, which gives the impression that it's, you know, the goal is we want to take mid and we want to have multiple people here, or saying like, let's do B default, and then it means we're starting 3B and we have someone holding flashes and we have someone who's going in and doing Molotov here and stuff like that. We can have agreed on how we want to start the round, right? So that's basically a default. This thing, I call it multi-step default. I should honestly find a better name for it, I realize now. But imagine that we just have a call out SK. And SK is always where we do long smoke from spawn, and we do Molotov short roof, and then we always get a flash and we take mid in a certain way, right? Then imagine we have something called Molotake, where we do Molotov long and we do Molotov short, right? And then imagine we have one strat where we do like the Fnatic smoke, or like one multi-step default where we do Fnatic smoke, and then with this, maybe we go close and we do Molotov short and we get a pop flash and we go through with 4, whatever. Again, this isn't a lot of this like cheat sheet stuff. It's not that it's something revolutionary, but it is putting something that's a little more complex, putting words on it. So I'll give again the example. It is a little bit hard to explain some of these things, but it makes sense in my head. So, you know, a B default, I mentioned it. It could be something like, you've talked about how do you want to start the round, and you want to be also able to react, right? Then you have, let's say, I'll just use B pop again, right? Then B pop would be the ending of the round. So start of the round, ending of the round. But then you could have something that's not a default, and it's not a set strat with an ending, but it's a set strat for map control, which we can call B Molotake, whatever. And then B Molotake is just where we, you know, Molotov here and Molotov here. Now, this isn't in any way revolutionary, what I'm saying. And most teams are probably doing this already. But I think a lot of people don't understand the importance of having like a keyword for control. So this, what I call a multi-step default, it's kind of like, I need to find a better name for it, but imagine it's basically a set strat for map control. The goal isn't to end the round, it's just a set strat for map control. And what this allows you, and that's kind of what the cheat sheet is for, right, is it allows you to call something like, let's do A default, or like, okay, that wouldn't make sense. Let's do B default. Like, let's start B default, do B Molotake, and end with Jiminy Billy Bob, right? And then Jiminy Billy Bob can be a set strat on A. So it's actually possible for the IGL to call not just default, but also call in a sort of set strat where everything is agreed upon. What space do we want to take, and how do we want to take it, and also call an ending. And this is not something that will be good for the IGL to do every single round, but it is a way to shorten the communication, because there has definitely been times where I've been, IGLing for a team, or where, I've played with IGLs or whatever, where you've heard something like, let's start B default, but I want to end A, and then sometimes it becomes a question of, okay, on this B default, how much space do we want to take before we start ending A? And that's just, again, it isn't really something revolutionary, but I think it's important to understand. I think many teams call a start of the round and have also talked about the endings of rounds, but they miss the middle part. And understanding that that's basically just as important, because you could even make it longer. Like, this wouldn't make sense probably to call from spawn again, but it allows you to be more dynamic. Like, let's say, let's start B default, do B mono take, do Piranha, which is then also, a play in apps to take apps control, and end B. Then, literally, you can call. I mean, again, an IGL probably wouldn't call this many steps, but the point is just that it makes everything super clear. And I think a lot of teams will, I've had a lot of teams where maybe they do like a flash for boiler or something like that, and that has a name. But that, I think, is a little different, because it's more like a name for a move. Like, I've had many times. I'll use an AWP player as an example here, right? Probably anyone who's played Counter-Strike at even a decent level will know what the Saiwu peak is, right? Where you get like the smoke that lands to turn off the Molotov, and then you run with AWP and you peek this. And that I would consider a move. It's still sort of a set strat, because and it's basically a set strat for an opening, right? That's what a move is. But I think a lot of teams will have, like the starters, the endings, the moves, but they won't have like the set strat for map control. And I think it shouldn't be underestimated how important it is, because when you play Team CS especially, if you want to get good, most rounds are decided in the mid round. There are a lot of rounds that will, you can have a good start in a round, you can get an entry, you can get whatever, but you will still potentially lose in the mid round, and you won't even make it to the late round. So having plans for also the mid round that are very talked through and understood by everyone and can be called with few words, instead of being like, oh, let's do Molotov sandbags now and Molotov corner, and then do the flash top left, and then you just say, let's do the B Molotov. Everyone's on the same page. Everyone knows. Also, the A players know exactly what's going on. I think that can't... I can't... what's it called? I can't tell you enough how important that actually is, and I think it's something that people skip. Okay, I will just, for the YouTube video, bring you back to the coach cheat sheet, and I'll just read what it says. So, this is the next point on the list is the Counter-Strike ladder on each map. And what I wrote, actually, I'll even bring you guys back. I think it's better so everyone can see. So basically, we did this recently in a session. I call it the Counter-Strike ladder, and you can apply it on each map. It's sort of a tier list for what is the easiest or hardest T-strat to complete. And for this, because we can, I will bring us to Ancient. Basically, it says this can be used to prioritize what to block as CT to evaluate. Okay, so these are different points, by the way. This can be used to prioritize what to block as CT, right? The easiest thing for the Ts to do is typically what you want to be blocking first. It can also be used to evaluate the own level of your map. So, for example, if I am playing Mirage and my team is only capable of rushing A and B, then I think I can pretty quickly assume my team is not very good on that map. And it can also be used to evaluate opponents' level of map understanding. So if I am playing against opponents and all they do is rush all the time, I can probably safely assume they don't feel comfortable playing slow. And if they don't feel comfortable playing slow, it probably means they have worse map understanding. That's the idea. So the Counter-Strike ladder, we talked about it recently in a full session about it. But basically it's, I think actually it's easy for me to show you. So let me just bring everyone in game again. And again, we will head to Ancient this time. Because I don't think maybe we did this in the Counter-Strike ladder session. I think we only managed to do 3 maps, I'm not sure. But basically, this is a sort of CT specific thing. And what we were doing was we were ranking what is the easiest to do as T. So I will just have you do it again a little bit, guys. What would you say when you are T? What is the easiest? Like, let's say you go into a Faceit game, you have no idea who your teammates are, if they're good or they're bad, basically. What would be something you can always call?
B-rush.
Guy mid, multiple
Yeah.
boxes, and yeah, split B through cave and ramp.
Yeah. I mean, B-rush, I think, was what the majority say. And that is, like, in my opinion, also definitely the easiest to do, right? Anyone and their mom can do this, because you just hold W, and if someone appears on your screen, you try to kill, right? I think I didn't do that last session, basically, but I put more thought into it, and we'll do it this time. So I will say, okay, maybe for Ancient it's actually not that true, but basically what I'm trying to say is on Mirage, when we did it, the Counter-Strike ladder, we talked about how like B rush is the easiest and then A rush comes second and stuff like that. I would say B rush and A rush on Mirage, for example, is pretty comparable. Like just running up slope. It is a little bit more difficult than B rush because you might have to do a little bit of utility when you get up A. But what I would normally do on a map like Mirage is I would say B rush and A rush is kind of in the same tier, basically. On Ancient, I will say you can rush A just like you can rush B, but typically if you don't have a donut smoke, it will be a little bit difficult. So maybe on Ancient I'll put them in a different tier, but at least I think we can all agree here at the session, like B rush and just like a stupid A rush is probably the two easiest things, right? Anyone, well, like, what do you guys think is sort of the next easiest?
Probably mid-rush
Yeah, mid rush to what?
to donut.
Yeah, I will completely agree. That was exactly what I had in my mind as well. So like for the next tier, it would be mid rush to donut to A. Why is this more complex? It's always a good question.
You need more utility. You have to contest middle. Usually they play 2 on middle, so it will be something that you have to take account. You need flashes, you need a smoke on red room,
Yeah.
and maybe a molo in middle of mid.
You kind of like need to first fight for mid, then like fight for donut, and then get to A.
Yeah. All
There's
really
like
good
2
points.
steps before getting to A.
Yeah. I think I agree with everything you guys said, and it's great that you guys are so interactive today, especially. I think the main thing that I'm thinking, which was mentioned, is that, you know, you basically can't rush mid without red room smoke, right? Like, you can rush B by just turning off the Molotov. But for mid, if you don't have red room smoke, you're probably dead. And as you also brought up, like, you kind of need someone flashing, and you will probably be fighting 2 CTs. Also, the CTs, like, for example, if there's a CT on B, the normal block for a CT is just Molotov, right, on ramp. But in mid, the normal block is like molo and sometimes double nade on top. So it's more complex also because you will take more damage in doing it, on average, I think. Even if you get the kills, right? What would you say is next on the list?
Cave.
A push.
Yeah, like A contact? Is
Or
what you would go?
maybe an A rush with a donut smoke.
Yeah, that's true. I think, yeah, that's true. I think, yeah. I mean, I would kind of say yes to that. And also, someone said cave. Why do you say cave? Why do you think it's more complex?
Because you need to be aware of the different things that CTs can do. They can try to like push ramp, take lane, or they can peek heaven. So there's a lot of like things you have to consider.
Yeah. And also, is it difficult to take this area?
Multiple choke points.
Multiple choke points also? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you're standing in one, that doorway ahead of you is the second one, and getting out of cave is like a third one. So it's like a lot of util you need.
Yes.
Third of space.
I'm gonna turn you up a little bit. I think I turned you down a lot less session because your microphone was super loud and now it's not.
Yeah, I changed my mic settings.
Okay, good. Well, I got you back up on full now, basically. But yeah, so yeah, I completely agree with that. I think what is also always the thing is everything is always more complex when you have to kind of make your intentions known, right? Like if I come here and I just as T, I run and I do brawler and Molotov, and I'm running here, I turn off smoke, like the Molo with my smoke, I get a flash, maybe I go in and check it. Now the CTs know that I want to take cave. And because of that, for this to go well, I need to have some kind of distraction elsewhere, right? Like, it's basically not possible for me to take cave and instantly full rush cave. I mean, I could. It's just less likely to work than B or A because the CTs will have the information that you're rushing earlier, majority of the time. And
also,
so,
I think leaving that cave, right? If you don't have someone distracting, like say on ramp, you're gonna get. It's kind of hard to clear both short and also was it wood bangable?
Yeah.
You know, on the
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Like that's a really deadly crossfire trying to clear one angle.
Yes.
You get shot. I gotten shot in the back so many times because I guessed on the wrong, like which side it might be.
Yeah. And that actually brings me back to one of the first sessions we did. Well, I personally did with Gosu Academy. I called it Cone of Awareness. And it is like the amount of angle you need to be aware of where someone can kill you. So like going out of cave is exactly what you said. If I'm going out here, my cone of awareness is yeah, it's like 180 degrees, right? And one easy way to make my cone of awareness to like tighten it, right, is if I have a short smoke, for example. Now my cone is only from here and onto here. So already we tighten it a lot, right? The same way if I would then have like, let's say, Molotov in Cubby, I don't need to worry about that. Now my cone of awareness is extremely small, right? Everything that is happening in my view. The problem is, for you to like tighten the cone of awareness, you need utility, right? Like you need smoke short, you need Molotov and stuff like that. And every layer of this adds to the complexity of the round. Which is, yeah, if you want a successful cave rush, you probably need more, right? You might need, you know, like a short smoke and a flash over cave, and then like a Molotov cubby to even make a cave rush somewhat doable. And then even if you rush cave, you still need to probably fight for long and stuff like that. It becomes a lot more complex. So that's essentially what the Counter-Strike ladder is. It helps you rank what is the most likely for the T to do. And what's great about that is you know what you need to focus on blocking first. So, for example, if you don't block B rush in Face It, or if your team doesn't block B rush, the T's are going to B rush or they're going to contact B start of round. That's just how it is. The same if the T's rush A one time, for example, they see there's no one A. Like, they will probably do it again, or even if they just see that we are many in mid, the T's might rush A, or they might just do it as a, like, random call. And if they do so, then, yeah, that's that's kind of easy. The simple bomb plan for them. The same with the mid rush to donut to A. Like, if the T's manage to go out here, if you don't block them by, if you don't do mid smoke, you don't do molo, you don't do double nade and stuff like that, it's like you are inviting them to do what is next on the list. Like, people who play Counter-Strike are simple-minded a lot of the time, unless they are really, really good, right? So if they see B rush as possible or B contact, they will do it. But if you block that, they go to the next spot on the list. Okay, let's try A rush. Then if they die doing A rush, then they go to the next spot on the list. But every spot, like every step they take up the ladder, it gets more and more complex. And more complex means, going back to the coach cheat sheet, you know, first we can use it to evaluate what is the most important for us to block, right? Because it's rare, unless you play against really good players, that they will start at the top of the ladder. It's only really an amazing Mirage team which will start by playing late splits through mid, for example, because that's probably the hardest thing you can do. So what is the most important for us to block? Well, we gotta first block the early steps on the ladder to make the T's lives harder. And then what you can also use it for is you can use it to evaluate your own proficiency on the map. So like, if my team, for example, is only capable of doing B rush and A rush because we don't know the red room smoke from spawn, that's an issue. And that means we are not very good at the map. So for me to say that my team is good on Ancient, I need to be able to do the red room smoke from spawn and make this mid rush happen. Like, I have to know within myself that this is a viable round to call. And then after this, it would be something like, as we said, a cave rush or something. If we can't do that, we can't be very good at Ancient. And you can also use this then to evaluate your opponent's proficiency on the map. In the sense that, again, if you are doing anti-strat, for example, and you see they only ever A rush or B rush, well, then you know if you block that, you're taking them out of their comfort zone. But you also know if you don't, then they're gonna just do that. And if you keep blocking A rush and B rush, then they probably will try something else, or they're gonna just completely fail miserably. Obviously, no offense, but if you want a good example of the Counter-Strike ladder in action, go ahead and watch NIP Impact versus Spirit Female on Ancient last Impact season, which was like the match that no, actually it wasn't the match that qualified us, but it put us in a driving seat to be number one in the group. And like, I did a lot of good anti-strat in that match. We blocked the first steps on the ladder, let's say, and we forced them to play our game the entire match. Again, really recommend watching that. In fact, we did the same on Inferno. But this was the Counter-Strike ladder perfectly embodied in a match. So if you're curious on how this works, just see how we block the easy stuff and they start playing a style they don't like playing, and we just own them because we understand the map better. So yes, okay, and we're kind of coming up on time, which is good because we've only got one last thing left. I will real quick show you what that is. I'll make sure everyone can see it. So the last thing is not something we have to talk about that long, but it's at the top because it's actually the most important. And it just says set focus goals for officials that are not just let's win. So I don't want to tell you too much about what is kind of the NIP way of approaching practices. I would actually like to share it with you one day, but before I have asked, I don't want to share anything because it goes for all the teams basically. But one thing I can say is that one of the best things for us is setting focus goals, basically exactly what it says, set focus goals for officials that don't depend on the result. So everyone here probably has played some kind of match. Doesn't have to be a team game. It could be, you know, I will use Counter-Strike as an example, but let's say you're having like a rank up game, or you're hitting a new sort of career high in Premier, or you are trying to get level 10 on Face It, you're one match away and stuff like that. We've all felt this pressure, right? Pressure to perform and pressure to win, basically. And, you know, I wrote it, set focus goals for officials, but it doesn't really matter where you are in your career. If you are just a face-it grinder, that will be your official. That will be the most important thing you have. And basically, instead of setting a goal, which is, this is what everyone does, and this is how you can be better, everyone goes into every face-it saying, I want to win. And the problem with having that as your goal is it's almost 50-50 that you are going to be disappointed. You're not going to be able to live up to that goal basically 50% of the time. So instead, what you can do, and it's a small thing, but it helps so much with relaxing you when you need to perform, is set a goal that is actually, what do we say in Danish? We say håndgribeligt. I don't know if tangible is the right word, but either way, it's like, it would be like saying, in my next Faceit match, I want to have great active communication. This is one of the best ones that my team uses. And then actually, you take the power out of the result. I no longer am judging my own performance on whether or not I won the match or I lost the match. Instead, I have a focus, which is I want to have great active communication. And what that does is, if your focus is not so much on your own stats or if you're winning or losing or whatever, if your focus is on a goal, like great active communication, right? Then, like, what you will find, hopefully, is that you will start doing this goal better. You will start having great active communication more often. The goal can switch between matches, right? So one time it can be great active communication. I think there's a lot of young players out there where the goal could just be, I want to play a match without tilting. And then sometimes you will win and it will be easy not to tilt. Sometimes you will lose 13-3 and you will just be hating your life and you will want to tilt. But so long as you manage to not tilt, you've completed your goal. And again, the reason why this is so important is because you don't have to be nervous or feel like winning is the most important. Instead of focusing on the result or your elo or whatever, you will instead focus on your improvement. And then it allows you to focus on your individual development instead of did I win today or did I not win today. And that is like, that's actually such an amazing thing to do. I can highly recommend it. So yeah, that's why that's at the top. Yes, okay guys. A lot of yapping, like always. But I do hope you appreciated the sort of coach cheat sheet. I have, only started writing this, let's say, in the last 6 months, and as you can tell, there's very little information in the document. I want to keep it that way, because I only want it to be the most important things that I've learned, basically. And my idea of the coach cheat sheet is that once per year, I will tell you guys everything I've learned. Maybe it will be on the Gosu Academy, maybe it will be in a YouTube video, maybe I won't share it at all, maybe I'll find something that's so good I want to keep it secret, but this is kind of, which is crazy to say, a full year of coaching a professional team, one of the best female teams in the world, compounded into like 5 or 6 small subjects or like topics, trying to explain something that's complex in a more easy way, or remembering something that's important, which seems trivial but people don't do. And I think basically all of these things you can go and apply to your own game. Some of them are a little bit harder, like the Terrorist Diamond, for example, but the Counter-Strike ladder, you can definitely apply that in Faceit. This focus goal, you can definitely apply it in Faceit. If you are like playing in the same stacks often, like with the same people, you could go and make these like multi-step default, stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's all very solid knowledge to add to the memory bank, and I hope that you guys feel like also you have learned something from this session. So with that said, guys, I want to know now if there's anyone here who has a question about today's session, or if they have a question not related to today's session, or even just something amazing that happened in your life you want to share.
I have a question. I'm kind of curious. Are you posting your videos to the new Gosu Academy page? Oh, that's where you find the videos. Okay.
Yes, and they will be more up to date. My last 5 sessions, for example, I've done are all on the Gosu page. Actually, the most recent one isn't, and this one obviously isn't yet, right? But the 5 before it, they are not on YouTube. They're not even uploaded unlisted to YouTube yet, but they are on the Gosu website. So it's like early access, you know, and I'll try to keep it that way by uploading it for you guys.
I don't know if they changed the site, but I was complaining that there's no way to find like who coached which.
Oh,
like everything's like I don't know if they fixed it since.
I think they did. At least I can pick thumbnails, and I've just put a picture of myself next to a Gosu Academy logo on all my sessions, so you can like scroll through it, and if you see a picture of me, then you will know it's a session for me, you know?
Yeah,
I hope it's better.
I couldn't figure out who's coaching which.
Okay, I know that makes sense, but I think it should be fixed.
Actually, yeah, I think I see your picture on yours.
Perfect. Let's try to keep it that way. I will try to make sure to upload my sessions and always keep posting the same thumbnail so that it's very easy to find at a glance.
Yeah, because you really can't tell who the heck coached the other ones until you like click them, and then it's like, is that the video I'm looking for to like rewatch? You know?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Shout out Shifter. I even messed it up. That's so sad.
How do you like it?
Save his voice.
Well, I think it's good, but it is a little bit. It is a little bit difficult sometimes. I think this one.
I have the Nate lineup crosshair.
Yeah.
I have that enabled, and I find it to be easier.
Yeah.
With that one.
Someone else sent in a different lineup, which is I think easier. We've been also trying to work with it a little bit, but it's not moving. More I don't really want to say. But you'll probably see it. I mean, probably I'll show it next session. That's how it usually is with me. But
I mean, I saw one on a video where you're at the corner and you're aiming at the window. Are you're trying to smoke out donut, right?
Yeah, but on the inside, like in here.
Yeah. If you go to yard or wherever that box is on T side. Oh, you're doing on CG side?
Yeah. As a retake smoke. It's really cool.
Okay, no.
Yeah,
I know the one from T side.
Yeah, I know. I think I know that one as well. It's like this
Other
and
side.
like this, right?
Other side.
Oh, that's what I'm messing up. Oh, yes, it is. That's what I'm messing up.
The right side I'm talking about. Oh, you throw it from there?
Wait,
because I go on the right.
I throw it from here, but I think I've been. Or maybe. Oh, it's like this and like that. That's how it is. I think this should work. Yeah.
The way I throw it is from the other side. I didn't know you could throw it on this side. All right.
I only know this one. So. But yeah.
No, I mean on the other corner. Not
yeah,
the
this
side.
one, right?
Yeah, yep. You stand here and then you aim at the middle of the window and then jump throw there.
Okay, that's cool.
That's the one I know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know.
It's basically
but I don't know if
thing.
I don't know if there's advantage to one over the other. It's the same.
I mean, this one is good if you're afraid of getting pushed from A, for example. But typically your teammates will be here, and it's more likely you're gonna get pushed from mid. So maybe this is better. But yeah, either way. Okay, guys, I think we got time for one dying question. Anyone got one?
No one has one. Anyone? Because I do have.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So my team are gonna do some tryouts soon. So like, do you have a good way to do it except just scrimming, or are there like some properties you look for when you're trying out players?
can only give advice, not so much about how to run the tryouts, but how to pick the right person. Do it
That would be nice.
like as if you're dating, right? Like set good expectations. Like for example, I see too many teams, they are searching for a passive rifle, and then they have a few people, and one of them has a little bit better aim than the others, and then they will take a guy who, whatever, used to be hyper aggressive, and he doesn't actually slot into the role. Like he's not an anchor, he's a rotating player, for example. And then maybe he doesn't slot into the role that well, but because you feel like he's a better player, you think it will give a better result. Obviously, I'm not saying find people that 100% fit in the role, but like there's more to Counter-Strike than just mechanics, right? Make sure you find someone who you vibe with as well. Like, it's not important that you guys are best friends outside the game, but I find that if you are having fun outside the game with each other, you're gonna play better in the game. And also, yeah, think about the roles. Like, there's a ton of professional teams as well who will just pick up literally anybody, even if they don't fit the role, and try to shape them. And I think it's very rarely giving a good result. So set like a clear plan for what kind of player do we need. During the tryouts, do we vibe, and are they good? Like these are probably the three main questions I would ask myself.
Nice.
So that is kind of like the same approach when I go with dating, because I'm sure a lot of you guys here have had the experience where like you're dating a girl and she wants to change. She wants to change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or she wants to change you.
Yeah. No. I'm saying that's what I'm talking about. She wants to change you. Like almost, a lot of women date men and then they want to change them, and it's like, well, why aren't you dating the type of person you want? Like, why do we have to change? Like,
Nado. I don't know like how to pronounce his name. The Vetka guy, whatever. He wants you to like send him a link to the NIP versus Imperial game, whatever.
Yes, I will do that.
Isn't that also on HLTV?
It
too,
is on
or no?
HLTV. Yeah, I will send the HLTV link.